My husband and I became millionaires when we were in our early 40s. And by the time I was 47, I was able to take a full year off work and sell my business for $1 million because I had created systems that allowed that business to run without me and created a team. And I now live on the lake and I have a wonderful life and I get to do what I want. And I just want to share with you that I'm in a lot of gratitude for that, but it wasn't always that way. I remember a time when I was little, when we didn't have enough money to buy milk. My grandmother would sneak in and bring it, pop it in the fridge. I was little. When we ate potatoes, we gave the potato skins to our Labrador because we couldn't afford dog food. In fact, when my father joined the Army, we believed we were rich. My mother was so excited because we had a beautiful apartment in Germany that the Army gave us, and we even had a cleaning lady. But that dream ended when I was just 6 years old. My father died. My brothers were 4 and 2. He went out, he was a hunter besides being in the service, and he went out duck hunting to bring home ducks for Christmas dinner, and he drowned. It was December 1964. It was during the Vietnam War. So my mother decided she was going to move back home and be close to her family, and with the proceeds from my father's life insurance, she was able to buy a house, a little house, and she drove the school bus for the church school I went to, and we were doing really well. We were doing well, and there were a lot of happy times. But my mother wanted to be taken care of. She was looking for her Prince Charming. But what she ended up with was a monster, literally. So I still remember the night that she brought this man home and introduced him as he was going to be our new father. I went to bed that night and just cried myself to sleep. So the next 9 years were a living hell for my brothers and me. We lived in constant fear and abuse. And although my mother, she didn't protect us, she really did her best. And I know that to this day. Often when there's domestic violence, there's also financial abuse. So by the time my mother finally divorced my stepfather, she was homeless, she had no income, and she had breast cancer. So by this time, I was on my own. And because I was a war orphan, I received free tuition to any university in the country. I also had an income stream coming in from the government, from veterans and Social Security, to support me while I was in school. But the universe had a different plan for me. In my 3rd year of college, I ended up marrying my own monster. He said that he loved me, but I knew in my heart that he was evil. But I married him anyway. I thought I could change him. I was going back to the familiar. I was just 19. And I was all alone. 9 months later, when I tried to leave the marriage, he put me in the hospital. So there was a detective there taking pictures of me and asking me, who's going to come pick you up? Who are you going to call? I had no one to call. Again, I was all alone. I was all alone when I went to the courthouse to file criminal charges against him. And in fact, the immigration had charges against him as well, and he was waiting for me. And he jumped in my car, and he threatened to stalk me down and kill me if I didn't drop the charges. Guess what I did? I dropped the charges. So here I was. I had hit rock bottom. I was living in a subsidized townhouse. I had no income. I didn't have a car. And the worst part was I had completely lost my father's legacy, because this college education that I had and this income ended when I got married. So I really was alone. So how did I get from where I was then to where I am today? Okay, I know it sounds like a sad story, but it's a series of steps that I have taken over and over and over in my life, and it's called the 6 Pillars of Awakened Prosperity. I actually created a system for it, and all of this happened perfectly, and I believe it to this day. I have no regrets because it's helped me create and figure out what my life purpose is. And that's why I'm standing here in front of you today. So you should all have a handout for the 6 Pillars of Awakened Prosperity system. And so it's a tool that's going to allow you to live in alignment with your mission, your vision, your values, your goals, your unique abilities. And in fact, every time in my life that I went from one level to another level, I use this process. So I'm going to share the steps with you today, and then I want you to understand that there's these 6 steps here, but each of those steps has more steps. And this is a signature system, and each of those steps has its own signature system. So we only have a limited time together. So I'm going to be going through the steps very quickly, and I'm going to be sharing my experiences with you as we go. So what were the steps that I went through? And I'm doing that because I want you to think of your experiences. So I shared that story. You all have your own story, so be thinking about your steps that you went through, and also where you are today in your life, because you could be at any one of these spots. You could jump back and forth even. So I promise I'm going to give you some really useful tips that you can take with you and implement immediately. And for those who want to go deeper, I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So let's get started with pillar number 1. So pillar number 1 is when you create your dream. You create your vision. And it's where you want to go and how you want it to be. And you want to make sure you write it down. How many people here know the story of the Harvard study about people writing their goals down? I'm sure most of you do. And basically, there was only 5% of the class, this was a study a long time ago, that had their goals written down, 5%. But when they traced them after 30 years, that 5% had more wealth, I call it prosperity, health, wealth, and happiness, than the other 95% combined. So you want to write those goals down, and you want to stay focused. So that point in my life, when I had hit rock bottom, a miracle happened, because I found this book, and it was called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And when I opened that book, a miracle happened, because I realized my dream. And I also realized my burning desire, and it gave me hope. I also realized that this idea of the law of attraction and how I could create anything I wanted in my life. There was 3 things I needed to do, is to have a vision, to do the work, and to never give up. To have a vision, to do the work. You have to do the work. So this idea of law of attraction doesn't matter. You have to do the work, and you never give up. So that became the model for the rest of my life, because I am driven to succeed. They call me the Energizer Bunny half the time, because I never give up. I'm a student of life, and always learning, taking programs. And my dream back then was to never be a victim again, and to help others do the same, to be financially independent. I was just 21, and that dream was very strong. So I want to ask you today, how many people journal? Good, okay. So I want you to write down, what is your dream? And I'm going to give you 2 questions. And the first one is, if you had a magic wand, what would you wish for? And you've probably heard this before, and it might sound a little woo-woo, but I'll tell you what. Think about because you do have a magic wand. Everyone does. And you've heard, ask and you shall receive. So write your dream down and focus on it. The second thing I want you to do is to imagine you had $10 million. And money was not a problem. You could do anything you wanted in your life. What would you be doing with your life? That is, after all the vacations and the golf and the shopping and all the stuff, What is it you would really want in your life, and what would you do? Now, I just was working with a young lady the other day, and she had lost her mojo. Okay. She was depressed, and she was, I mean, this is a brilliant woman with a master's MBA from Ivy League colleges. She actually went to 2 different Ivy League colleges. And she had just completely lost her belief in herself. So I asked her about this book she wanted to write. And where was it on a scale from 1 to 10? She said it was a 3. Then I asked her that question about the $10 million. What would you be doing with your life? And she said to me, well, I'd be writing and speaking. About what? And she told me. So what do you think happened there? She went into some kind of fear and self-doubt. So how often does that happen to us? She was afraid she wasn't good enough. So what is your dream? I want you to focus on it every day. It's so important, and get clear about it. The second step, the second pillar, is discovery. Now, discovery, when I was a financial planner, I spent 80% of my time in here, in this area. So discovery is when you're going to identify your unique abilities, your talents, your skills, your passions, your brilliance, what I call your brilliance. You're also going to discover your why. So your why is your burning desire. It's why you're here. It's what you're supposed to do in life. You also want to discover what's holding you back. What are your limiting beliefs? What are your challenges? What are you tolerating in your life? So that's the discovery process. Best-selling author Janet Attwood says that passion lives in your heart, and that when you move in the direction of what has most meaning to you, you create a path of least resistance, so you can do less and achieve more. Deepak Chopra says it this way. Write these 3 things down. Every day ask yourself these questions. Is it fun? Is it easy? And am I getting results? Isn't that simple? Is it fun? Is it easy? And am I getting results? I love that. I also want you to ask yourself these questions, because this is important. What is it you're really, really good at? What is it you're really, really good at? Okay, you may not even know, because the thing that you're the best at is probably something you don't even think is a big deal. So you may have to ask someone else. It's a thing that's effortless to you. Also, what is it when you do it, you lose track of time? I get that with painting. Sometimes I get that with work, with writing. And what is it that when you even think about it, it scares you to death? It scares you to death, yet you know that if you just did it, it would change your life forever. What is that thing? So after my divorce, I found this job at Sperry Vickers, 40,000 employees. I had a 401k, health insurance that even would pay for my college, because remember, I'd lost my college benefits. So it was perfect, right? Should be so excited. No, it was horrible because I had taken a job doing something that I wasn't passionate about, that I was horrible at, and I was getting paid. But I was a horrible secretary, and I knew after a year that I had to leave. I had to get out of there. But what could I do? My friends said I was crazy, right? Then I remembered I was great at sales. Remember, think of that thing that's effortless. Ever since I was a little girl, I was going door to door, selling stuff for fundraising. I went to a parochial school. I was, involved in our church. So I was going door to door raising holiday dollars for the poor and the needy. When I was a little kid, I'd come back with $100 back in the 70s. People would turn off their light. It's called, for insurance people, getting porched. Leave me there. I would go to the next house. I dialed for dollars when I was 15 in what they call a boiler room, I find out today. Selling tickets to the Grand Ole Opry. It was amazing. It was easy for me, and it was effortless, and I loved it. And I got recognition because I wasn't getting that, remember, from my home life. So this was a secret for me, and it was the smartest thing I ever did. So what is effortless and what is fun for you? And once you've identified your unique abilities, your passions, your brilliance, and what's holding you back from that, what you want to do is step into pillar number 3. So you see this process we're following. Pillar number 3 is the leap. Now, the leap comes before the plan, and why is that? Okay, because all you have to do here is make a decision. It's a pivotal point. You don't need to know how yet. That's pillar number 4. You just make a decision. And when you make that decision, you activate the law of attraction, and you send it out to the universe, and the magic begins. You get that phone call. You get that idea, you want to write that book. You get invited to come do that speech. You get the job offer of a lifetime. You meet that perfect person. You know. What happens now? What happens when this happens? What happens next? You freak out. Am I crazy? What was I thinking? I'll do it later. I can't do this. I'm not doing it. Okay, so what's going on here? You're going into resistance, that's all. And it's 2 voices going off in your head. We've all been there, right? How many people know what I'm talking about? The 2 voices, right? So what those 2 voices are, okay, one voice is your ego. It's trying to protect you. The second voice is your intuition. It's your soul. And your ego is trying, all it's trying to do is trying to keep you safe. It's what you learned when you were a child. While the soul is calling you to soar. The ego wants you to hide. And your soul wants you to shine. Your ego tells you that mediocre is fine. Just play it safe. Average is okay. Where your soul is calling you to greatness. One other thing. The ego is always loudest and it's first. Remember that. To hear the soul, you have to get quiet. And when you do, you will hear the whisper of the soul. So there were several times in my life when I had to take this leap. The first was at Sperry Vickers, and I did that. It was the right choice. And the second one was a long story, but I went through some difficult times, and by the time I was 26, I was earning 6 figures in today's dollars. That would be $100,000. That is also when I met my husband, so I want you to know I have a fabulous husband. We've been together almost 30 years, or about, he bought a car for me, so about 1 million miles now. And at that time, even though I was making all this money, it was time to take the leap. So I wanted to become a financial planner. I had learned how to make money. I now wanted to learn how to invest it. And I went and took this job as a financial planner, and that first year, all I made was $12,000. It was devastating to me, but I kept on. And 3 years later, I was still struggling. Okay, I had learned sales, but I had not learned how to be a financial planner. I wasn't making money. We were using one credit card to pay the next. I was pregnant. My husband was unemployed. He's with the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. And I was ready to quit and go get a day job. And my point here, what I want to point out is I was so close to success, but I didn't see it. How many times in your life have you been so close to success and you almost gave up, or maybe you did, you won't know then, but you almost gave up and you didn't, and the success was right around the corner? Okay, well, that's what happened to me. So why is this leap important? Because it always lies just outside your comfort zone. And it's how you gain confidence, and it's how you learn and grow. So I want you to think about, what is your leap? I want you to write it down. And once you take this leap, then it's time to create the plan. Now, the plan is where all the work begins, and that's where so many people give up. It's when you're working, if you're working on your health, a relationship, your finances, a business. It's when you're creating your plan, you're creating your team, your systems, you're doing your marketing, you're creating your niche. but it's creating a system and then following the process. And I have to say, it's almost impossible to do this alone. And starting from scratch and trying to figure out on your own is, and doing the trial and error, is going to cost you time and money, and it's going, there's a better way to do this. So I'm going to give you 3 secrets that you can use right now, and they will work every time. Number 1 is you want to get support. You want to find a mentor. So John Maxwell says that it takes 10 years or 10,000 hours to become an expert. My husband got into the Detroit Symphony Orchestra at 18 years old. He didn't have his 10 years in, but he had his 10,000 hours in. I talked to him about it. So you can borrow this expertise by finding a mentor. You can take a course. You can find a coach. You can read inspirational materials like I read the Think and Grow Rich, but learn from others. The second thing is you create a community. Maybe you form a mastermind. You find support from other like-minded people who love and cherish you. And those people, the naysayers, you're going to have to move them out of your life at this point because they're going to drain your energy and confidence. And number 3, never give up. Never give up. Most people quit just before they reach the success. So you want to trust yourself and trust others. You want to believe you have a purpose and that you're on a path to your dream. So here's a story that ties all of those together. I was just about ready to give it up, and I met a mentor. And I told him that I couldn't do this anymore, and he said, Katana, you are so close to success. He says, just bring your people here. We'll work as a team. I'll show you how to work as a team. In 90 days, I made $100,000. And guess what happened? It changed my whole paradigm. It changed my mindset of who I was and what was possible in the world. How many times has this happened to you? All I had to do in that case was bring these people to him and work with the team. And I also found out at that point what my passion was, that I really helped people. I wanted to work with people and help them make a difference in the world. Now, I want you to look at this too, because you look at who you can work with. At this point, if I had accepted everyone, which is what I was doing, and people invested $10,000, and I wanted to have $10 million under management as a financial planner, I would need 1,000 clients. If I accepted only those with 100,000, then I would need 100 clients. If my minimum investment became $1 million, I would only need 10 clients. Now, how hard is it to find 10 clients? And I will tell you, what I learned is it's easier to work with those 10 people than it is to work with 100 or 1,000, and it's the same process. So, in the next 3 years, I became a certified financial planner. I got educated. I quit being a salesperson and became the expert. I invested $50,000 into coaching. I hired one of the top business coaches, and then I started implementing everything I learned, and that's when the fun started. I went into the dance. So now we're in pillar number 5. Now, you can take a sigh of relief at this point, because the dance is when you're having a blast, because you are now, I call it dancing with the universe. You begin to implement. And sometimes you will be leading, sometimes you'll be following, sometimes it's a great song, and there will be times where you completely faceplant. And just get ready for it. Because the dance is when you're testing, retesting, and making mistakes. Okay, it's also where you learn and grow. And it includes trust, it includes practice, and it also includes time management. So when I hit 50, my husband said something to me, because I was still always pushing myself, trying to do something new, go, go, go. And he said, honey, he said, at some point you have to master the art of arrival. That hit me like a ton of bricks. And I thought, master the art of arrival. So at some point, you will reach mastery. Now, what's interesting about mastery is when you're at the top of your game. You're in the flow. You're the expert. Your business is running without you. You now have financial independence, and you also can make a difference in the world by creating your legacy. Where do you think you go when you reach mastery? If you look at this circle, you go back to the dream, because when you reach mastery, you have a new dream. So that's exactly what happened to me in 2007 when I sold my business. I had reached mastery. I wanted to go out and help the women that I was not able to help as a financial planner, because we were only helping rich people. And if you look at my childhood and my experiences, I really had this passion of helping women make smart life and financial choices. I also had a dream of creating a community where I had an army of smart, successful women who would each reach out to just one other woman and say, here, take my hand and I'll show you how. So that dream is a reality now, and I have gone through every one of these pillars again. And there were moments when I wanted to give it up. It's one of the most difficult things I've ever done, but it's been so worth it. So right now, today, I am still in the dance, I'll be honest. Have not reached mastery in this new business, but it's getting fun. I finally found my perfect partner, and that is one of the secrets, because you can't do everything yourself. But we're doing the dance, we're implementing, we're testing, and soon I'm going to be at mastery, and I'll have a new dream myself. So where are you today? It all begins with the dream. What is your dream? I invite you to use this process. It's my gift to you. And I invite you to come join our Smart Women's Coaching community so you can create a life that is a beautiful journey, and you can create wealth, you can make a difference in the world, and you can live the life you love. Thank you.